Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that you're a bit of a student of history, and I just want to point out that 158 years ago today was the first convening of the Parliament of Canada. And for 148 of those years, all the governments combined that we've had spent less than the Liberals have spent in the last 10 years. And I know when Canadians hear the title of this budget, Canada Strong, they expected a budget that would be more affordable, reward hard work, and restore confidence in our future. Instead, the Minister of Finance has delivered a budget that spends more, borrows more, and achieves less. It's the 10th Liberal budget, and after nearly a decade of Liberal reckless spending, Canadians are poorer, investment is weaker, and our economy is falling further behind our global competitors. This is not strength. This is stubbornness disguised as leadership. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance told Canadians he would control spending and bring discipline back to Ottawa. But once again, the government couldn't resist the temptation to use borrowed money to paper over deeper concerns. He promised to rein in deficits, but the deficit continues to grow. He promised to make life more affordable, yet Canadians are hit with higher costs on everything: groceries, fuel, housing, and interest rates. He promised that this budget would rebuild confidence. But confidence is collapsing. Investment is leaving. And Canadian productivity, the backbone of our standard of living, remains stuck in neutral. Mr. Speaker, for all that talk about nation building, this budget continues a dangerous pattern. More debt, more bureaucracy, and no results. This government now spends more money on interest payments than it does on health care. That's not a sign of a strong nation. That's a sign of a government that refuses to make the hard choices. Canadians are making sacrifices every day, but the federal government refuses to make any on their behalf. Every dollar spent on servicing the debt is a dollar that we can't spend on helping seniors, supporting hospitals, or investing in infrastructure. This is not sustainable, and it's not responsible. Mr. Speaker, I want to share a story from a farm family I met recently in my riding. It's nothing dramatic, just a coffee at a kitchen table and a conversation about how things were going on their farm. They run a small mixed operation, grain and cattle. They're not the type of people who complain. They're the kind of family who gets up early, works late, steps up when their neighbors need help. As we talked, the wife said something very interesting to me. She said, "We've always been careful with money, but in the past year, everything's just moved faster than we could keep up with. Fuel, fertilizer, repairs, insurance, groceries, every single cost went up, but their income didn't. Like so many young farm families, they're doing everything right. They're managing their debt, they're working extra hours, cutting back where they can, but they're still falling behind." Then she told me something I didn't expect to hear from farmers. She said quietly, "We had to go to the food bank." And then she added something that cut right to the heart of it. "We're farmers. We feed Canada and the world, and now we rely on the food bank to feed our own family." Mr. Speaker, she wasn't asking for sympathy. She wasn't angry. She was embarrassed. But she shouldn't have to be. This is a family that works at community fundraisers, helps neighbors, and contributes to feeding the entire country and the world. Yet after nearly 10 years of Liberal policies driving up costs at every turn, even the people who feed Canada can't reliably feed their own children. Mr. Speaker, this is not what a strong country looks like. And it's not the Canada that they were promised. Mr. Speaker, if there is one symbol of prairie success, it's canola. A made-in-Canada innovation that farmers turned into a world-leading crop. But this government has failed to defend that success that canola represents. Foreign tariffs remain in place, trade barriers continue, and market access is shrinking. Instead of fighting for our producers, this government issues press releases and photo ops while the actual work of trade sits undone. Instead of lowering taxes on fuel and fertilizer, this government, they raise them. Instead of helping producers move product to market, it creates layers and layers of new red tape. Farmers don't need handouts. They need a trade deal and respect. But this budget, it delivers neither. Mr. Speaker, this budget claims to invest in the future. But when you read the details, the prairies, again, are treated as an afterthought. There's no plan for the roads or rail lines that move our exports. There's no meaningful investment in trade corridors. And there's no support in rural infrastructure, water, broadband, or bridges that communities depend on. Instead, we get another Ottawa-run sovereign fund, another layer of bureaucracy deciding which regions get attention and which get ignored. This is not partnership. This is paternalism. Prairie people do not need Ottawa to run more programs. They just need Ottawa to get out of the way. Mr. Speaker, the same neglect extends to our resource industries, the industries that build our economy, fund our social programs, and support thousands of hardworking families. From the potash mines around Rocanville to the oil fields near Estevan and Weyburn, workers are ready to innovate, ready to grow, and ready to help make Canada energy independent. But this budget, it offers nothing to accelerate responsible development, nothing to improve regulatory timelines, nothing to secure long-term export capacity. Instead, this government layers on new rules, new taxes, and new delays. It makes it harder for projects to move forward and easier for investors to look elsewhere. A strong country needs strong resource industries, but this budget weakens them instead of strengthening them. Mr. Speaker, for all the money that's being spent, there's almost nothing in this budget to make our country more productive. No plan to make it easier to start a business, no plan to reduce red tape or regulatory duplication, and no plan to attract investment and keep it here. The Minister of Finance talks about inclusive growth, but Canadians are excluded. What they need is opportunity. They need confidence that their hard work will pay off. This budget does not deliver that confidence. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives cannot support this budget for one simple reason. It makes life harder for the very people it claims to help. It drives up inflation through uncontrolled spending. It discourages investment through higher taxes and regulation. And it undermines provinces through federal overreach. And it ignores the sectors, agriculture, energy, manufacturing, that actually create wealth. Canadians aren't asking for more programs. They're asking for the ability to get ahead by their own hard work. This budget makes it harder and not easier. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives believe in a Canada that works for the people who do the work. We believe in rewarding effort, not punishing it. We believe every region, every province should have the same chance to succeed. We believe a government should respect the people who feed us, build our homes, and power our economy. Our vision is simple. Make life affordable again. End inflationary spending. Build homes and infrastructure faster. And celebrate, not punish, agriculture and resource development. And restore hope and hard work so that once again it will be enough. That's the country we believe in. Mr. Speaker, this budget tells Canadians that the government knows best. Conservatives believe Canadians know best. This budget grows government while shrinking opportunity. It punishes work, erodes trusts, and leaves entire generations behind. For that hard-working farm family in my riding, and for countless others across this country, Conservatives cannot and will not support this budget. Because the real strength of Canada does not come from another deficit or another announcement. It comes from Canadians who build, grow, and produce the wealth that keeps this nation alive. They deserve a government that trusts them, respects them, and finally stands up for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his remarks today. He mentioned two issues that are certainly important to me in this House. One is agriculture, and two is canola. And having been working on this file, having sat in with the Prime Minister with the bilateral he just had with President Xi, I'd ask this honourable member two things. One is I hear consistently from the Conservative benches that we should not, as a government, be engaging or trying to recalibrate the relationship with China. I'm wondering if he could give his thoughts on that, given how important it is in his constituency constituency, including whether or not he might engage and share some wisdom with some of his colleagues about the importance of doing that if we're going to support Western farmers. Second piece, he talked about there being a lack of emphasis in the budget on agriculture. I would certainly reject that premise. There is a number of issues mentioned around agriculture, including supports. But what I find most surprising is there was nothing in the Conservative platform for agriculture whatsoever. Would he have a comment on that as well?
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Trade with China is extremely important when it comes to the canola sector. It seems that every time that the Liberal government engages with China, we come home with a new tariff. I want them to take a better look at the actual people that are feeding this country, people that are supporting agriculture and the many, many jobs that it supports across the entire industry when they're next time that they're in trade negotiations. It's something that we need to take seriously and actually come home with a result instead of just empty words and promises and photo ops.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Rimouski.
The honourable member for Rimouski. Thank you. I'd like to congratulate my colleague on his speech. Now, I'm concerned about science and R&D as the Bloc's critic. I always make it my duty to express the concerns and claims of the scientific community. But in this budget, there's no funding, no increase to the funding for students or for research. And yet, Mr. Speaker, this government says it wants to be a world leader in innovation. Well, in order to innovate, you need to do research. So I'd like my colleague to explain how this government claims to be a leader when they refuse to fund science and R&D. The honourable member.
Excellent question, and I can say that Canada is leading. I'll speak to agriculture. Canada is leading in many sectors of innovation when it comes to agriculture. But what we find in Canada is because of the lack of supports and the systems that are in place that actually make it harder for innovation to come to market in Canada, a lot of our entrepreneurs, our innovators, are developing their products in Canada and leaving for other jurisdictions. This is something that was not addressed in this budget, but is something that's very important to the future growth of Canada.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, this government wants to borrow $321 billion in the next 4 years, $78 billion alone this year. That represents $8,000 per every single Canadian. So where's the prosperity in this budget? Where's the benefit to Canadians in this budget other than put in additional $8,000 on the shoulder of every single Canadian?
Honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
That question hits it exactly to the point I made in the speech of the farm family that I met. Because that this government is just spending so recklessly, every time they print money, they increase inflation. Every time you increase inflation, you increase the price of goods, all the goods that farmers have to buy, all their inputs, all their daily living expenses. There's real human cost to these overruns, to these deficits. And I wish that the Liberals would take it a little bit more seriously instead of thinking it's just their unlimited piggy bank.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, one of the things that the member said earlier that really surprised me is when he talked about him and the role he played in Saskatchewan. And he talked about the importance of trade. Now, when you think of trade, we could talk about what it is that the Prime Minister to date has done, but let there be no doubt, if you take a look at the last 10 years, we have seen more signed-off trade agreements than any government before it. Yet the member tried to give the false impression that trade maybe isn't good for the Canadian farmers in the prairies. I'm from the prairies. Trade agreements are a good thing. No government in the last...
I have to interrupt the Parliamentary Secretary to give a chance to the member for Souris Moose Mountain to respond in 25 seconds or less.
I'd like to remind the member opposite that everything that he just said is recorded and that he should go back and look at actually what I had said and to know that he is actually putting words in my mouth there, because I definitely did not mean that. Trade is extremely important to us, and we need to promote trade and not discourage it like the Prime Minister's been doing.